Good morning, beautiful people of the internet. I'm stepping in for Jay for the intro today because he's going to be a little bit quieter than usual. We've been doing a lot of talking, Jay, right? We're going to nod and do sign language just this week. But we're all back. Looking forward to exploring the proponomics with Adam. So we'll dive into that. And then, as usual, please say hi. Let us know where you're watching from. Tap in your questions so we can read out some comments. And yeah, let's make it really interactive. And hope everybody's happy and well this morning. How are you? Oh, I haven't introduced everybody. Gosh, sorry, Jay. Slacking. So we have on tech, Piotr, the tech whiz. Ooh. Adam, there's a wave, and the one and only Jay, who will be so quiet today, quiet as a little mouse, and of course me coming from Malta. So Adam, let us kick off with you.
Thank you very much. We're gonna at least look at Jay's beautiful face anyway, even if we can't hear much from him. But I'm sure we'll get into some irresistible topics that he won't be able to keep himself out of. I'm absolutely sure of that. So, supplement this week, interesting week in as much as the economy still looks like it's going okay. Press is starting to report we're definitely in a recession now, even though if we are in one, that would be a minus 0.1 for Q3 and a minus 0.1 for Q4, which actually the way the rounding works, it could be as little as minus 0.05 when you get down to it. But a lot of people are convinced we're in one. At the moment, though, January's figures are pretty much showing that if we are, we're not going to be in one for very long, and Q1 will be fine. Now, of course, we're only 1 month into Q1, so things can happen and that could all change. But the PMIs, which I like to use as a pretty good bellwether of the economy, they're pretty important figures, came out this week ahead of expectation. Manufacturing doing a bit better, although still shrinking. Services doing a bit better than expected, and obviously driving the economy forward as they always do, really, apart from anything else. What else did we get into? Optimism and pessimism. There was a lot of that around. The spoiler for this week really was I'm about as bullish as I can remember being about 5-year capital growth, and I actually realised this week as well at an event I was keynoting at, I'm more bullish on HMO than I've ever been before, and some of that is also because of the changes in the single room banding that have been achieved by the campaign group, which have done very, very well. It was lovely to see at this event I was at on Tuesday. Wendy Whitaker-Large was recognised for outstanding contribution to all of that, and of course those will remember we had Wendy on a few weeks back, and she got a standing ovation, again very richly deserved. Obviously not the only person who was involved in that, but a real headline figure who subsumed the gigantic workload that must have been involved in that and just sort of brushed it off as business as usual, so we still salute you, Wendy. HMO landlords around the country are very happy about that, there's no two ways about it. But bullish on HMO, bullish on 5-year capital values. I was asked what I think about 5-year capital values, and I said 25%. That's where I'm at the moment. I think we could easily see a 25% bump over the next 5. Does that mean we're in a bull market right now? No, but surely this is the point. You don't wait for the bull market before you get validated in terms of buying. You look at all the fundamentals, you look at all the signs, you look at all the signals, you look at the real data, and you get stuck in. So I think anybody who's listening, you might still be on the fence about, should it be property? One of the things that I heard the other day that drives me mad is this comparison of, this you get 5% in the bank these days. That's great, right? But inflation is 4%, so you can get a 1% real return, or you can get an asset that's going to rise nominally over time in value with some nominal fixed debt. That's going to sort the inflation part out for you. Then you're also going to get some yield in terms of rent. Then you're also going to get some yield in terms of some money in the long run in terms of the capital growth side, the equity side, because the mortgage can do a lot of the heavy lifting. So, the spoiler alert is stuff started to stack up again, apart from anything else. And therefore, I don't think waiting is a particularly good option. I'm expecting the auction results when we see January's wash out completely after we've had next week as well to be pretty positive, but I'll hand over to the guys to talk about that one in a bit. But that's the spoiler, is that's where I'm at. I also did, the bonds have had a bit of a tough week. We're pushing the 4% again, unfortunately, but then that's all to be expected, really, trading within that range. Why are the yields higher? Because when the economy signals are positive, then the rates can stay stronger for longer, and they're heavily influenced by the US, where the stronger for longer argument looks right. And when we get to next week, on Thursday, when we have the MPC meeting, and maybe 2 or 3 of the hawks still vote to put the rate up, everyone's then going to realise again how far away we are from that first rate cut. That's my prediction. 2 to 3 of the committee will still vote upwards, because they still don't think the heavy lifting's been done. And that will, again, I think that might be priced into the bond market already at this stage, to be honest, but it can't be particularly positive for yields. But I think that's where the general betting is going on that front, notwithstanding any other major changes. I also talked about the Hamptons International report that they released, which said 50,004 new buy-to-let companies have been incorporated in 2023, which is pretty incredible, really, when you think about it, given that it was such a tough year. Of course, it doesn't necessarily mean they've got property in them yet. There can be a bit of a slow process. What they didn't say is 15,000 or 14,000 companies folded or dissolved in that same space. So figured it wasn't worth doing anymore. About 75% of these companies are using leverage. 25% aren't, not necessarily of the new companies, but of all the companies that own property, which is a number about 650,000 properties owned, which when you look at the size of the PRS, 4.6, 4.7 million, depending on who you listen to, you're talking a relatively small fraction in limited companies. What you're talking about, 15%, aren't you, or something like that? Not very much. So this idea that policy changes and then things follow on, we are 9 years nearly after George Osborne's infamous 2015 financial statement, 9 years, and all that's changed is things have got a lot worse for the tenant, and that's not stopping anytime soon. But it's an interesting report, and I'm glad that Hamptons do the work that they do, because they do care about the data integrity, unlike many of the other bigger organisations who should be ashamed for how terrible their forecasts are, apart from anything else, because they really are just summarily utter rubbish, almost to an organisation. Really, there's very few that stand out as even better than extremely weak. And then I also, at the end, had to put something in about, we've all seen this week's efforts, right? 99% mortgages, nice little marketing strap line. First thing I thought was, well, didn't we have 100% mortgages last year from the Skipton? So that's not as good. They blatantly chosen 99 because nobody's done 99 before. So as usual, the Conservative spin department's working hard. But let's face it, it's going to have to work pretty hard if it's going to hold on to anything that looks like power. So 99% mortgages, no detail as yet. Devil will be in the detail. Are they going to compromise on the affordability for people? Will they find a clever way to financially engineer that? Well, it didn't go so well last time. So I think the regulators, PRA, Bank of England, and hopefully the general public will be all over them if they try to do something really stupid, and that will be stopped. Labour, not to be outdone by a stupid idea that's been done before, had a stupid idea that had been done before as well, and that was the 25-year fix. So genuinely, it reminded me of Gordon Brown selling the gold when we were at a massive low, thinking that gold was always going to be low instead of looking at 150 years worth of data like any sensible person would have done. And I thought, right, okay, so what you're saying is we're going to wait till the bond yields are the highest they've been in about 20 years, and then we're going to bring out some long-term fixed products. And bear in mind, the yield curve is inverted at the moment. The yield curve between 5 and 10 years hits its low, which is still not that low, but just under 4%. And then at 12 years plus, it starts going back up again. So we're going to target a really difficult to understand long-term part of the yield curve at the worst time to do this in 20 years. And these people are going to be in charge of the country. Not that they're any worse or better than the bloody idiots that are currently in charge of the country. So I just can't. I can barely speak about it, to be honest. But what I did do, because that's dead. It's dead easy for me or anybody who commentates, writes, blogs, whatever, to just rip into people. That's the easy bit, right? The hard bit is actually, all right, then, Chief, what's your solution? So I thought, you know what? I'll bloody tell you what my solution is. So my solution is that we look at, bank of mum and dad, auntie and uncle, friends and family, whoever, and the government facilitates a longer term, something that looks like equity release, because our average LTV is 20% across the UK. Lots of banks of mum and dad have got unencumbered properties, more unencumbered than encumbered properties, apart from anything else. So let's design them a product based on, in a similar way to equity release, actuarial proper figures, so that my guy was called Little Johnny. So Little Johnny can move out of his house with a nice deposit from bank of mum and dad, which will be plenty, which they won't have to make monthly servicing payments on. And believe it if you want, the government can make a margin. They can make a profit on this product and it still be really good. Now, I know that people see that as a dirty word, but it's bloody inherently stupid that they do. So how about facilitating all of that in a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac kind of way, but in a way that's sustainable, that you've still got to keep the affordability criteria. Little Johnny still needs a half-decent job, or bank of mum and dad needs a way right in, but that can be paid back either by Little Johnny, right, or by mum and dad if they want, when they shuffle on or whatever. You know, it'll be the same as any equity release style situation. And you unlock the 10 trillion quid's worth of equity there is in UK residential property. I mean, there's the answer for you. Be very happy to expand on it and debate on it. And I've said in today, if anybody wants to send it on to MPs and whatever else, I'm not holding my breath, because I never do. I've tried it a number of times before. It always seems like, I know no better analogy than urinating into the wind, I'm afraid, for these sorts of endeavours. But if anybody does have the ear of any MPs or any special advisors or anyone like that, stick that in your pipe, get on with it, because it's a bloody good idea and it would solve the problem. Now, I know that politics isn't about solving problems, unfortunately, but at least it's not me sitting on the sidelines throwing stones at people and not adding any value to the debate, which obviously is what we try and do every week, apart from anything else. But maybe that's soapbox just nudged to the side for a few minutes. Perhaps it would be good to hear from Piotr and Jay about the recent auction stuff that's been going on, because I've been speculating for most of January that we'd be pretty buoyant, but of course I might be a little bit ahead of the auction. Is pretty real time, but when you look at the optimism in business, that's still pessimistic, but much lower pessimism than there's been for a long time. I think it was a 3-year high for the business confidence index and a 2-year high for the consumer confidence index. So still got more bears than bulls in there, but that's a clear improvement in terms of the trend. You don't normally necessarily start January with unreasonable hope, I don't think, especially if you're replying to the Confederation of British Industry surveys. You know, you're deliberately employed to be quite a miserable CFO or whoever is answering those. But what have you guys seen this month or this past week or whatever in terms of auction sprinkles for us?
Brilliant. So I think what you're saying about the recession didn't get to people who are buying in the auctions, because auctions have had an amazing start to the year. We spoke on Friday. We're recording Property Auction Hunters, a few episodes with Saif Omar. We had also another trader from up north, Oliver Adams, with us. So and then there was another trader who came into to
Oliver, if you're watching, we salute you. We salute you.
There was a big trading crowd basically at the table, and basically what's been said, there was a lot of gossip, and that's where the best information comes from. And the gossip is that a lot of traders have made a lot of profits this month already, and they've sold like 80% of the stock, and basically they've made good profits. So I think that's a really good barometer of what's happening, because you can't really look at those numbers on EIG that says, okay, sold percentage rate 75-80%, because that's all engineered. But when you hear of traders making money, that's real kind of data, not passed off from official channels, but it's more real than the actual sold
No,
percentage.
I think it's the best, isn't it? Because it's the bridge between the direct to vendor market, realistically, and how bearish the vendors have been, and how much they've had to accept an offer, and how bullish the auction buyers have become. So I think it's a brilliant piece. If only you could have a trader survey that some of these guys would answer confidentially, that would be a magnificent indicator. Perhaps you could do that and sell it to people, although people don't care about the right data, unfortunately, they just care about something that sounds good. But you could try.
I think the only way would be to tap their phones. That's the only way to do it. I don't think that would be followed.
Get Piers Morgan involved. You've got to do what you got to do, Piotr. At the end of the day, I mean, for the cause, mate, for the cause.
Oh, amazing. No, but I think February is going to be a really good month for property. I think everyone expects. I think people are generally tired of waiting for the crash. That's why I kind of sense, because they've been waiting for the sidelines for a while. And now things.
If only someone had been saying, there's no point waiting for a crash and don't time in the market, not timing the market, and blah blah blah. If only they'd been saying that on a easy to digest, sometimes slightly wordy, or audio wise quite long, free to air product on, for example, a Sunday morning release at 6:30 a.m. every Sunday without fail. Who would have thought it?
Heard it here first.
Yeah.
That's on the back all round, Adam. Yeah, well done.
So basically, that's the gossip from the auction market, and we've been also speaking with Kim and Suze and Charlie about some of the things you guys were running on Thursday, the workshop. How did that go?
Oh yes, tell us.
Yeah, so it was fantastic to meet a couple of the Auction Buyers Club members that I hadn't met before. That was wonderful. They were great, engaged fully, had a really, really good day. I was really pleased with it. Managed to get Rod into a conversation about mindset without him melting down into a puddle on the floor. So that's always a good start. But honestly, we had some really fabulous people in the room. Great atmosphere, great environment. And apart from the else, I think our biggest win was our first module was on productivity and time management, and we started it on time and we finished it on time. Now, we would have looked like a right pair of idiots if we hadn't, wouldn't we? So that was a win for the day. But yeah, we had a special dinner afterwards for a few who stayed behind as well, which was great. Extra conversation, some stuff that can't really air, I'm afraid, but that's what those things are all about. We have recorded it, so we will, once we've got the platform up and running, be able to offer people to buy the recording. But the Auction Buyers Club members were so complimentary of you guys, and what they were getting from the Auction Buyers Club, which made perfect sense. People. The thing is, why have Rod and I started doing this? Because we've always been sick of people who do it and don't deliver results, and we want to help people deliver results. It's kind of not fair for us, really, because we kind of pick people or attract people who are already doing stuff in property or have done stuff in property. So we're winning before we start, right? Because we're not filling a room, let's say, of 1,000 people, let's say, who pay nothing for the ticket but 100 quid if they don't turn up, and then producing pyrotechnics, smoke, mirrors, whatever else, neuro-linguistic programming, an army of 30 shills to run to the back of the room at according times and all the rest of it. It's obviously they don't care about the success rate. They care about the old spondulics that are coming from it. But honestly, to do that event, to raise a bit of, to be paid to do it, essentially, for the privilege of getting those people in that room, there's worse things I could have done with my Thursday. Look at it that way. Really, really enjoyed it, which is why we're doing another one on Wednesday, the 24th of April. So a bit more lead-in time. Hopefully we're going to get everybody back who came this time around, but it'll be another standalone one, so we can also encourage some people to come along. And we're going to talk about JVs, M&A, due diligence, and some case studies of stuff that we've done over the past couple of years that are really quite interesting. Some limited company purchases alongside everything else, and some disposals as well. And guess what? In true Adam and Rod style, we're going to tell the truth, and not everything's gone perfectly. Not everything's. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? It's property, and not everything's gone perfectly. I know. Stop the press. I realise we might lose some true believers at this point. They might be turning off the YouTube as we speak. But guess what? Yeah, some stuff isn't ideal. But the point is, share those experiences, share how those experiences were managed, dealt with, psychologically dealt with apart from anything else, and the good that came out of it in the end.
Brilliant. Well,
where are you going to hold that?
So it's going to be London again. We'll probably go somewhere Euston-ish way, because the majority of people who were travelling have come into somewhere near Euston. So somewhere near Euston, King's Cross, Marylebone, one of those. I've got someone looking for a different venue, because the thing is, you know what it's like getting into London, wherever you are really is not too much of a problem. Yeah. Perversely, it's as easy from Manchester to go to London as it is to go to Birmingham, really, to be honest, rightly or wrongly. Same goes for lots and lots of places around the country. But what you don't really want is a big journey from the station all the way around, and that's a bit of a pain sometimes. So looking for somewhere like that. Open to suggestions if anyone knows anywhere excellent.
I might be in London that day, so I have to be in London the day
I'll be in London too. Just check my flights and stuff. So
amazing.
Ooh, a little reunion.
Amazing.
Yeah, I've got modern.
So what we did as well, what we did the day after, which was quite cool, is went and Rod, against his better judgment, decided to hire a podcast studio for the day with the proper mics and everything else. Did it in Brewdog in Waterloo. What a cool building that is. Apparently Peter Crouch does his podcast there, so I was like, well, Rod's at least as tall as Peter Crouch, so that's where the similarities ended probably. But we did a great pod as well first thing the next day, so very productive stuff. Got back on the train, sorted everything out. We're still able to get home and get some work done. I've had a pretty interesting week with the conference on Tuesday as well. A couple of days out talking means that there's some doing that's a little bit backed up, but the team have been brilliant, and I'm not as far underwater as I thought I might be. So pretty happy with the week, to be honest. It's gone really well, and there's been some great fun. Met some great new contacts, which is always fabulous, and really pleased with it.
Amazing. We'll need to get you on the Property Auction Hunters in some time.
You guys film that over Zoom though, don't you?
Well, that's over Zoom. Like we used to do it over Zoom, and last week we did it in person. So we recorded a few episodes, and that's going to be released soon. And we're planning on doing this in person, because in person is the best. It's,
amazing. Well, definitely made that happen.
Yeah, the quality of it is like, just you can't compare it, and also the enjoyment factor, like you said, around the table with other guys, and there'd been some really good jokes and things that we'll remember basically.
Well, I'll fix that by coming and bringing some rubbish dad jokes along, no problem. But yeah, no, I'd love to, mate. We'll definitely do that.
Cool, sounds good. Helen, are you recording anything?
I am. I've been really busy in Malta. We've just kind of like announced it low key. Can't say too much yet, but I'm going to be doing my own podcast here in Malta, which is a spin-off of the She Word, which is really big over here. So I'm going to be doing a Women in Business series. The series of 6 episodes, so I'm planning all that out. And the strapline for the She Word is conversations that women rarely have but really should. So there's some nice juicy topics in there. So I'm going to be hosting my own show on there, and yeah, we're going to start recording this month. Ooh, super excited.
Come on, amazing.
Yeah, really excited about that. Yeah,
amazing stuff.
Yes.
Okay, so Adam, what do you think this next few months are holding for property? Because obviously we discussed that the crash is not coming, and even if it is, waiting for the crash is not the best strategy. It's a good strategy now to be buying a lot of property, and what kind of property people should be looking at if they wanted to buy.
I think what's on the cards is this January won't be an outlier, and the traders will have a fair few months of a bit of clover apart from anything else. So I think it's absolutely a good time to be buying. I think it's a good time to be buying flip projects, to be honest with you. I think the market will be favourable. You've got to forecast the market 6 months in advance-ish when you do that, realistically. I'm talking about your good old-fashioned, old-school vanilla flip where you might be extending, or you might be turning a 2-bed into a 3-bed, or you might be doing some of that. But really, nice refurb, nice job, decent looking spec, get it out on the market, get it sold, get the money in the bank. I think it'll be a good year for that, whereas it hasn't been a good year, it hasn't been a good 18 months for that sort of activity. I think, there's positives and negatives. You talked earlier about the traders and the information that they hold that's really valuable, and it's really real time information. And of course, we all prefer real time stuff, so we really know what's going on. But when will, I said the average mixture this week of various periodicals saying interest rates are going to keep going down. It's like you're saying this in a market where the bond yields have been rising for the last 3 weeks, and they've just hit a recent high, so they're not going to be going, you're seeing a few products pulled off the shelves because these ones that have been down at sort of 5.25%, when the bond yield's 4%, they can't really be knocking them out of 5.25%. All the mortgage data and stuff is still very negative because it's about 4 months behind normally. So it'll take another 3 months before we get the last quarter of 2023's stats through before anyone can. So it's like anything, isn't it? Some people like to wait until everything's been validated. I remember there's a story from before the financial crash where they used to joke that they knew things were going because the Finns started getting involved, the Finnish population, because apparently they're fairly notorious for waiting until everything to be completely lined up and perfect before investing. And of course, if you do that and you don't see the train coming, the train hits you right in the face. So the Finns aren't going to be involved for at least another 6 months yet, let's face it. But I think you want to steal a march here because there's a lot of negativity. We've picked up a number of deals this month at prices that we have not been able to pick deals up since Q1 2021, when people were still overly bearish about COVID and what was going on. And obviously we came out of, we had that horrible, long, protracted, bizarre break out of that third lockdown that was imposed on us. And so it was very easy for people still to be very negative. And we're seeing prices again that are 2021. I mean, we agreed a deal on something the other day, which was a little bit cheaper than the price paid in 2007. Now, 2007 was the top of the market. But I mean, look, the data shows prices are up 40% since 2007 on average, So if you're buying at that sort of price today and you've got the sort of view that I have at the moment on the market, I think you're going to be laughing. So I think open market is about as good at the moment as I've seen it for a long time, because there's stock, there's not willing buyers, there's lots of people prevaricating, and there are willing vendors who are negotiating. And that hasn't been the case for there hasn't been stock since 2019, really, has there, of any meaningful type? So you've really got a little confluence of the planets have aligned a little bit here. And although property moves slowly and you're still taking 4 months for deals to hit the land reg if they're done through the traditional market, we're probably not going to see that filter through into the figures until the second half of this year, right? But keeping in touch with the auction, the traders, the EIG newsletter, the result, that's your bellwether, that's your real-time information, right? You guys have got access to more than anybody, which is wonderful. But even the rest of us mere mortals can see what the results look like, look at the percentages, do all the rest of that, and work on the data, can't we? And I think the data's good, as you said.
Yeah. So if you had a hypothetical 1 million in your bank account, maybe we should ask everyone this question. If you had this hypothetical 1 million in your bank account right now, where would you allocate this? Resi property, commercial, mixed use, Bitcoin, I don't know, NFTs, I don't know.
So I think I'm less bullish. I'm less bullish on commercial because I think the rates are going to be fairly sticky unless something major goes wrong. So I think you had a good chance back a few months ago when we were saying, do you know what? The yields are past their high here. That was the time. You know, with the swap rate was 5.25, get stuck in if something's fairly priced. Whereas now we've retreated back to a place where, yeah, nearest to the top of my range for a sensible year, but that's where we are. I think it could be quite sticky. So I'd be going resi because I think the opportunities are there. Obviously, I'm generally biased towards resi because I think it's easier to buy and it's less risky, and the returns can be just as good, especially if you put a commercial style contract in there.
That's what
apart
we
from
get
anything
from
else.
Traders. I think like 85% or 90% of the traders, they just deal with resi property because it's like very quantifiable, easy to understand, and the commercials are usually where the risks are. That's why we like commercial, because of those risks you can add a lot of value. So we would rather do like 3 or 4 deals that are more juicy than 155 properties that make all 5k difference. So 5k
Adding the value is not adding the value is harder, which means there are fewer people involved, which should mean you should get better prices for stuff. And it's because it's hard. It's like buying businesses because they're hard to value. There's no Zoopla for that stuff, you know. So that's why you can really get stuff at 15, 20p in the pound sometimes if you really know what you're doing and you're willing to take the risk and do the legwork, of course, as well.
Yeah,
which you guys are.
And you said, like in the intro when you were talking about the proponomics, you said you're more bullish on HMO as well. What's your thinking behind that?
Well, 1.3 million net migrants, average household size 1.25. Biggest risk to the sector quashed by Wendy, Darren, and everybody who's been involved in all of that, as we already gave props to. Safety of room rent, all-inclusive bill. This 2022 energy, the whole winter 22, the government subsidising energy bills and stuff like that, that's left a scar on people, and we're still seeing that scar in our portfolio, where people are still scared to put the heating on, even though gas prices are down 90%. They've just, it's hard on a section of the population that don't proactively, understand and watch the energy prices and this and that. It's scared the bejesus out of people. If you therefore want safety, HMO is a great way to provide that because it's that one price all-in bill that works. So I can't imagine a sector where and also, I mean, it's difficult to find figures. I was looking for some decent data for my presentation on Tuesday. Not that we got past the first slide of it anyway, because I just went on a full rant about a whole variety of things. But nonetheless, we tried, right? But Octane Capital have got some fairly good HMO data, and their last published was showing a disposal of around about 30,000 HMOs net disposal. So the market's shrinking. Shrinking, and the demand has never been so high. And it's difficult to, I would not have thought that would be the case. I would not have thought that would be the case, but there we go.
Brilliant. So we've got a private comment from Jay in part-led, under-led, commercial, mixed use, hold cash, 5-year run, then trade out. Nice strategy.
Solid.
I'm on board.
What about Helen?
Well, given this morning's chat, I think maybe I should start dipping my toe in the trading market. Yeah.
That's Jay saying the water's warm by the looks of it. Jay, you've got to learn BSL, mate. We need some sign language here. We're missing you.
No, I think that probably reflects my risk appetite as much as anything else, because with the recent burns that we've had, and I've got money stuck in places like this planning. We're still trying to get on a bit of land, to build one teeny little house in East London. Still trying. Started buying that. Did hit the pause button for a while. Started buying that before COVID, before lockdown. So I'm just so like, I don't know, just tired of money stuck in places and then people not delivering, obviously.
Yeah.
So
I
maybe
think
I should just try something new.
one of the really good podcast or kind of content creator on YouTube that I'm listening to is Cody Sanchez. And she keeps talking about buying businesses and doing stuff like that. But most of the time, like, she gives like really good sound business advice about what kind of things to invest in. And one of those things is, like she says, investing in real estate right now in high inflationary environment is not ideal, because it's like you're gonna have a lot of costs. You're gonna have a lot of like capital, like injections into those things. And what we need to be focusing on is actually generating cash and doing things that generate cash with low capital inputs. And that's the kind of thing. I think it's a really good sound advice. I think property is still a good thing, but property is a good thing when you put cash that comes from a service business or comes from certain things. And right now it's good for maybe preserving cash, not so amazing for actually creating more cash. I think that's my 2 pence.
Yeah, depending on your time frame, exactly.
Spoken like a true trader. Spoken like a true trader.
Yeah. And what was her name?
Cody
Sanchez. Yeah.
Yeah, she's really good. You like her. She used to do investment banking, Goldman Sachs, all this.
Is she American?
Yeah, from Texas, I believe. Yes. Really good content. But in just noticing, we have a lot of people in the comments from Oxford, Manchester, Malaga, Solihull. There's a few people in Buckinghamshire that I know of. There's quite a good contingent from all over the place. Adam, there's a couple of comments about your thing. With £1 million, you should go further. Everyone does residential. Be different.
Well, I would use it as top slicing stuff for a load of bridging loans that could buy, 8 to 10 million quid's worth of resi. So that would be where mine would go, because I'd love to have overweight exposure to the next 6 to 9 months of this market. I'd love to. I think it's a great call. Obviously, they'd all be BMV, 50p in the pound, all money out, loads of money on top, blah, blah, blah. Well, they wouldn't all be, but I'd certainly, that would be what I would love. But if we could even average 75 pence on the pound, I'd be very, 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 very comfortable with the risk profile of that bridging investment. And also, Bridger will be your best mate, send you a little hamper at Christmas and stuff. So, hey, that's fab.
Brilliant. John Cox saying great content as ever, guys. And Helen, next comment. One thing on commercial, don't you think it's going through a massive reinvention phase, and many owners don't know many buildings' true values?
I think the true value thing is a really good point, and I'm not a commercial property expert. I've done a fair bit, but I'm definitely not an expert. And I think that's always been the case in commercial. I've bought when I think, yes, of course, if the valuation is at 10% yield, I need to buy it at 13 or 14. Absolutely. That might be on the estimated rental value, not the current value, to be clear. But really, what I want for the cherry on top is that I actually think if the valuation is at 10%, I actually think it should be valued at an 8% yield. And then I've got a double-edged edge then, hoping that we'll hit that 8% organically rather than being a slave to the interest rate. So, and look, commercial's such a big subject. Is Jay saying go and get stuck into a load of large office in a city centre? Maybe he is, but I don't suppose that he is. He's probably talking about.
He's not saying this.
Exactly. So we need to be careful when we say commercial is such a broad sector, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think the best things are the kind of commercials that are fairly, like, number one, they've got resi potential. Those are really good. Those are really good commercials, and the kind of ones that are not too quirky. I think if you go too quirky, that's where the problems lie. For the property auction hunters, we're actually reviewing one of those kind of commercials. It's in Somerset. It's a house, and they're outbuildings that used to be used as a nursery, garden nursery. And this kind of asset is so difficult to work with, because unless you're owner occupier that have a business and you know how to utilize that site, how else you going to value this? How else you going to find someone for it? So quirky commercial, not too good, but general retail with uppers and this kind of stuff, or commercial in resi areas, very good. Very good. And need alternative uses, as Jay says. Amazing. Brilliant. Okay, guys. Well, I think for today we need to cut it short a little bit. Our usual chat, we normally finish at 10 o'clock, but today we've got a few things going on, so we will do the chat a little shorter. There's a couple of more comments with Des and Jason. Investing with assets that have good income while you apply for planning is good. We like that. We like that very much. We actually got someone that we know. She did an amazing deal, but empty property, but she made it into a commercial. She let it on a lease, generating really good income. And in the meantime, she's going for this massive, big planning scheme. So it's the way to go.
Agreed. And I think people are often impatient about things that have 2 years left on the leases and whatever, and they're foolish to be so, because again, a lot of the competition drops out. And as Des is saying there as well, it might be that planning takes 2 years at the moment anyway. So I mean, it could be a match made in heaven, right? So totally with that.
Brilliant. Okay, guys. Well, cutting the short a little bit, but thank you everyone for the comments and engagement. Today we have had a lot of comments, so I think we'll need to get Helen to the introduction every time. Sorry, Jay. Wow,
1 week and you've lost it, mate. Boom. Boom. Just get safe next week and Jay's out. Yeah, sure, mate. Sure, Piotr. It's only your business partner, mate. Blimey. Wow. You better watch your size. He's gone. He's gone. He's gone. Say hi to Chorley as well.
Yes, you will. Thank you. And yes, see you all guys next week. Have a great time.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.